My parents said I was on my own financially, then bought my sister a condo for her 21st. I quietly moved to another state. 4 years later, my thesis made national news, and they found out on Facebook like everyone else. I never thought I'd be writing this story, but after everything that's happened, I need to get it out. My name is Sarah, and this is about how my parents' favoritism backfired in the most spectacular way possible. Growing up, I always knew my younger sister Emma was the golden child. Emma was born when I was 3, and from day one, it was clear she could do no wrong. Emma was outgoing, charming, and had this natural ability to make everyone fall in love with her. I was quieter, more studious, and apparently less worthy of attention. The favoritism wasn't subtle. When Emma wanted dance lessons, art classes, or expensive summer camps, money appeared out of nowhere. When I asked for a scientific calculator for my advanced math class, I was told to make do with the basic one we had at home. Emma got a brand new car for her 16th birthday, a cute little Honda Civic with a bow on top, just like in the commercials. I got driving lessons and was expected to be grateful. But I told myself it was fine. I was the academic one, the responsible one. I maintained a 4.0 GPA throughout high school, earned multiple scholarships, and got accepted to a prestigious university with a partial scholarship for their biomedical engineering program. My parents seemed proud, in their distant way, but the praise always felt hollow compared to the genuine joy they showed when Emma scored a goal in soccer or landed a small part in the school play. The real wake-up call came during my senior year of high school. I was stressing about college finances because even with my partial scholarship, I'd need help with room and board, books, and living expenses. The engineering program was demanding, and working a full-time job alongside it wasn't realistic if I wanted to maintain my grades. I sat my parents down in our living room one evening after dinner. Dad was reading the newspaper in his favorite recliner and Mom was folding laundry on the couch. The TV was on in the background, some cooking show that Mom liked to have on for noise. "I need to talk to you both about college expenses," I began, my stomach churning with anxiety. Dad looked up from his paper with an expression I'd seen before, that slightly annoyed look he got when practical matters interrupted his evening routine. "Sarah, we've discussed this," Mom said without looking up from the towel she was folding. "You got scholarships for a reason. You're smart enough to figure it out. But the partial scholarship only covers about 60% of tuition," I explained, pulling out the financial aid documents I'd organized in a folder. "With room and board, books, lab fees, you'll need to get loans," Dad interrupted, his voice carrying that final tone that meant the discussion was over. "Or work more hours at the grocery store. You're 18 now, Sarah. You're on your own financially. It's time you learn to be independent." The words hit me like a slap. On my own financially. I felt something cold settle in my chest, but I nodded and went to my room. I spent that night applying for additional loans and calculating how many hours I'd need to work to make ends meet. The math was brutal, but I made it work. I always did. College was harder than I'd expected, not academically, but financially and emotionally. I worked 25 hours a week at the campus bookstore, took out substantial loans, and lived off ramen noodles and peanut butter sandwiches. My roommate Jessica often invited me out for dinner or movies, but I usually had to decline. She came from a family that sent care packages and money for fun stuff. I couldn't relate. I called home every Sunday, mostly talking to Mom while Dad watched football in the background. Emma had started her sophomore year of high school and was apparently thriving. She joined the drama club, made varsity cheerleading, and was dating some boy named Marcus who Dad actually liked. When I shared my academic achievements, making Dean's List, getting selected for a competitive research program, landing an internship at a biotech company, the responses were polite but brief. "That's nice, honey," Mom would say. "Oh, I have to tell you about Emma's performance in the school play. She got a standing ovation." I started calling less frequently. During my junior year, something shifted in my relationship with my family, though I didn't realize how dramatically until later. I'd been selected for an exclusive research program working with Dr. Martinez on developing biodegradable medical implants. It was groundbreaking work, the kind of opportunity that could define a career. I was one of only 3 undergraduates chosen nationwide. When I called home with the news, genuinely excited for the first time in months, Mom's response was lukewarm. "That sounds very time-consuming, Sarah. Are you sure you're not taking on too much?" I tried to explain the significance, how this could lead to graduate school opportunities, potentially even early admission to PhD programs, but I could hear Emma laughing in the background about something, and Mom kept getting distracted. "Well, as long as you're happy," she said finally. "Oh, Emma just got asked to prom by the sweetest boy. We're going dress shopping this weekend." I hung up feeling more alone than ever. That's when I made a decision that would change everything. I stopped trying to compete for their attention. I stopped calling every week. I focused entirely on my research, my studies, and building relationships with people who actually valued what I was doing. Dr. Martinez became a mentor, and my research partners, Kevin and Lisa, became close friends. For the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged somewhere. I was so absorbed in my work that I almost missed the family group text that changed everything. It was a Saturday morning in October of my senior year. I was in the lab early, running tests on our latest prototype, when my phone buzzed with a message from Emma in our family group chat. Guys, I can't believe it. Romantic face emoji, house emoji, sparkles emoji. Then came the photos. Professional-looking shots of a beautiful 2-bedroom condo with granite countertops, hardwood floors, and a balcony overlooking a lake. The furniture was all new, a plush sectional sofa, a dining table that probably cost more than I spent on food in 6 months, a bedroom set that looked like it came from a magazine. My phone kept buzzing with messages. Emma, Mom and Dad surprised me for my 21st birthday. I'm officially a homeowner, party popper emoji, house with garden emoji, 2 hearts emoji. Mom, our baby girl deserves the best. So proud of you, Emma, smiling face with hearts emoji. Dad, hope you love it, sweetheart. You've earned it. Emma, I can't stop crying happy tears. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Best parents ever, heart emoji, heart emoji, heart emoji. I stared at my phone in the empty lab, the silence broken only by the hum of equipment and the distant sound of my own breathing. A condo. They'd bought Emma a fucking condo for her 21st birthday. I scrolled through message after message of congratulations, heart emojis, and photos of Emma posing with a giant bow stuck to the front door. The same parents who told me I was on my own financially had just purchased their younger daughter a home that probably cost more than my entire college education. I sat there for 20 minutes, just staring at the messages. Nobody had asked where I was or why I wasn't responding. In a family group chat celebrating a major milestone, my silence went completely unnoticed. That's when something inside me broke. Not broke like shattered, broke like when you finally stopped trying to force a key into the wrong lock. I was done. I didn't respond to the group chat. I didn't call to congratulate Emma or ask my parents how they'd suddenly found money for a condo when they couldn't help with my textbooks. I simply turned off my phone and went back to work. That weekend, I made a series of decisions that I knew would define the rest of my life. First, I scheduled a meeting with Dr. Martinez to discuss graduate school options. Not just any graduate school, programs that would take me far from home, preferably with full funding and research opportunities that aligned with my growing expertise in biomaterials. Second, I started looking into changing my legal name and address records to ensure that my future achievements wouldn't be easily traced back to my family. I didn't want them riding my coattails when convenient while ignoring me when it wasn't. Third, I began documenting everything about my research in meticulous detail. Something told me it was going to be important. Dr. Martinez was incredibly supportive when I explained my situation, though I kept the family drama to a minimum and focused on my academic goals. Sarah, your work on the biodegradable cardiac stents has been exceptional, she said during our meeting in her office, which was lined with awards and photos from conferences around the world. I've been corresponding with colleagues at several top-tier programs. Stanford, MIT, Johns Hopkins, they're all interested in students with your background. I'm looking for something with full funding, I said carefully. And preferably on the West Coast or East Coast. I want a complete change of scenery. She nodded knowingly. Academic families often understood the need to establish independence from one's roots. I have the perfect opportunity, she said, pulling out a folder. Dr. Martinez at Stanford is starting a new research initiative on next-generation medical implants. It's a 5-year PhD program with full funding, health benefits, and a generous stipend. The work builds directly on what you've been doing here. My heart started racing. Stanford. Full funding. A chance to work with one of the leading researchers in my field. What would I need to do? Your grades and research records speak for themselves. I'd write you a recommendation letter, of course. The main requirement is that you need to commit to the full program and be willing to relocate. Relocate. The word sounded like freedom. I applied that week and was accepted within a month. Full fellowship, research assistantship, and a stipend that would actually allow me to live comfortably while pursuing my PhD. For the first time in years, I felt like someone believed in my potential. The hardest part was not telling my family. I wanted to. Part of me wanted to call home and share the incredible news, to hear pride in my parents' voices, to feel like their daughter again. But every time I picked up the phone, I remembered the condo photos and Emma's excitement and my parents' easy generosity when it came to their favorite child. Instead, I finished my senior year quietly. I graduated summa cum laude with highest honors, but I didn't invite my family to the ceremony. I told them it was just a small departmental ceremony, nothing special. They didn't push for details. The truth was, it was a beautiful ceremony. Dr. Martinez gave a speech about the future of biomedical engineering, and I was recognized for my undergraduate research contributions. My lab partners Kevin and Lisa were there, along with several professors who had mentored me. It felt perfect without the complication of family drama. 2 weeks after graduation, I packed everything I owned into my beat-up Honda and drove to California. I left a note for my roommate Jessica, forwarded my mail to my new address, and updated my emergency contacts to list my undergraduate advisor Dr. Rodriguez instead of my parents. I didn't tell my family I was moving until I was already gone. The text I sent was brief: started a PhD program at Stanford. New phone number is number. New address is address. We'll be pretty busy with research for the next few years. The responses were immediate and exactly what I expected. Mom, Stanford? Why didn't you tell us you were applying? We would have helped you move. Dad, congratulations, honey. That's a big step. Call us when you get settled. Emma, OMG Sarah, that's amazing. California is so cool, romantic face emoji. I didn't respond. I was done with the performance of being a grateful daughter. Stanford was everything I dreamed it would be. Dr. Martinez's lab was cutting edge, my fellow graduate students were brilliant and driven, and the resources available for research were mind-blowing. For the first time in my life, I was surrounded by people who were as passionate about scientific discovery as I was. My research focused on developing smart biomaterials that could adapt to different conditions in the human body. It was complex, challenging work that required long hours and complete dedication. I loved every minute of it. Dr. Martinez was an incredible mentor. She built her reputation on innovative approaches to biomedical materials, and she encouraged me to think beyond conventional solutions. I also loved the distance from my family, physically and emotionally. My parents called occasionally, usually on holidays or my birthday. The conversations were polite but surface level. They'd ask how school was going, I'd give brief updates, they'd share news about Emma's latest adventures. She'd graduated from college with a degree in communications and was working at a marketing firm back home. She was engaged to Marcus, a high school boyfriend who'd stuck around, and they were planning a big wedding. You'll be Emma's maid of honor, of course, Mom mentioned during one call. I'll have to see if I can get time off from the lab, I said noncommittally. The truth was, I had no intention of participating in Emma's wedding. I was deep into my dissertation research by then, and the last thing I wanted was to return home and pretend we were a close, loving family. I sent a nice gift from the registry and a polite card saying I couldn't make it due to academic commitments. The response was a terse thank you note from Emma that radiated hurt feelings, but I didn't let it bother me. They'd made their priorities clear when they bought her a condo while telling me I was on my own. Years passed. I published papers, presented at conferences, and built a reputation in my field. My dissertation research was going incredibly well, better than anyone had expected. I was developing a new type of biodegradable cardiac stent that could actually promote healing while dissolving harmlessly in the body. Early testing showed it could revolutionize heart surgery and save thousands of lives. Dr. Chen was thrilled with my progress. Sarah, this work is groundbreaking. We need to start thinking about publication in a top-tier journal. Nature, maybe Science. I was in my 4th year of the program when everything changed. I'd been working on a particularly challenging aspect of my research, figuring out how to control the dissolution rate of the stent material to match the healing process of heart tissue. It required developing an entirely new polymer matrix, and the chemistry was incredibly complex. The breakthrough came at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday in March. I was alone in the lab, running what felt like the 1000th iteration of a chemical synthesis, when suddenly everything clicked. The polymer behaved exactly as I'd theorized, the dissolution rate was perfect, and the biocompatibility tests were off the charts. I called Dr. Martinez immediately, not caring that it was the middle of the night. You did it, she said after I explained the results. Sarah, you actually did it. This is going to change everything. She was right. Within weeks, we had confirmation that my smart stent design could reduce recovery time by 30% and virtually eliminate the risk of complications from permanent implants. The medical device industry took notice immediately. The publication process moved at a reasonable pace for academic standards. We submitted to Nature and received acceptance within 8 months, still impressive for such a competitive journal. The paper was scheduled for publication in October, and the journal's press team was already talking about featuring it as a cover story. But the real game changer came when Dr. Chen forwarded me an email that made my hands shake. Sarah, the email from a Science Times journalist began, we'd like to feature your cardiac stent research in our upcoming issue on medical breakthroughs. This work has the potential to save millions of lives, and we want to tell your story. Science Times. The most widely read science publication in the country, the one that turned academic researchers into household names. The interview process was surreal. Reporters wanted to know everything, my background, my inspiration, my future plans. I talked about the technical aspects of the research, the years of trial and error, the potential applications. I carefully avoided mentioning my family or my motivations beyond scientific curiosity. The photographer took dozens of shots of me in the lab, working with the equipment I'd used to develop the stents. In one photo, I'm holding up a tiny prototype stent, smiling genuinely for the first time in years. In another, I'm at my computer, analyzing data with multiple monitors showing complex molecular models. I didn't tell my family about any of it. The article was scheduled to publish on a Thursday in October. Dr. Chen had arranged a small celebration in the lab, and several medical device companies had already reached out about licensing agreements. My dissertation defense was scheduled for the following month, and I had multiple job offers from biotechnology companies and academic institutions. I was finally, completely, utterly independent. And successful beyond anything my parents had ever achieved. Wednesday night, I couldn't sleep. I kept checking my phone, knowing the article would go live at midnight Eastern Time. When it finally appeared online, I read it 3 times in a row. The headline was perfect: 23-year-old PhD student develops revolutionary heart stent that could save millions. The article was everything I'd hoped for. It explained the technical breakthrough in accessible terms, included quotes from leading cardiologists about the potential impact, and featured a sidebar about the commercial possibilities. There were photos of me in the lab, looking confident and accomplished. But the part that made me smile was the author bio at the end. Sarah Martinez is a biomedical engineering PhD candidate at Stanford University. Her research focuses on smart biomaterials for medical applications. She completed her undergraduate degree summa cum laude and has published 4 peer-reviewed papers. Martinez plans to launch a startup company to bring her stent technology to market. Sarah Martinez. I'd legally changed my name 2 years earlier, taking Dr. Martinez's surname to honor the mentor who'd believed in me when my own family didn't. It also ensured that my parents wouldn't easily connect my achievements to their daughter Sarah. The article went viral immediately. By Friday morning, it had been shared hundreds of thousands of times on social media. Medical professionals were calling it a breakthrough that would change cardiac care forever. Investment firms were reaching out about funding opportunities. News stations wanted interviews. I was sitting in the lab, trying to process the sudden attention, when my old phone, the one I kept but rarely used, started buzzing with notifications. Text after text after text. Mom, Sarah, is this you? Call me immediately. Dad, just saw the Science Times article. We need to talk. Emma, holy shit, Sarah, is this real? You're famous. Mom, your father is calling Stanford right now. Why didn't you tell us? Emma, everyone is sharing this article about you. Mom is crying. Dad, Sarah Marie, call home now. I stared at the messages, feeling absolutely nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, no regret. Just a calm, detached observation that they'd finally noticed me. My new phone rang. Dr. Martinez. Sarah, congratulations. The article is everywhere. NPR wants to interview you this afternoon, and Good Morning America is asking about a live appearance next week. That's incredible, I said, still looking at the frantic messages from my family. I'm ready for whatever comes next. There's something else, she continued. The Patent Office fast-tracked your applications. 3 major medical device companies are in a bidding war for licensing rights. We're talking about substantial money, Sarah. Enough to fund your own research lab. I felt a genuine smile spread across my face. My own lab? Sarah Martinez's Biomaterials Research Institute has a nice ring to it, don't you think? After I hung up, I sat in the quiet lab and thought about the journey that had brought me here. 5 years ago, I was a struggling college student eating ramen noodles and wondering if my parents would ever be proud of me. Now I was on the verge of launching a medical revolution and becoming financially independent beyond anything I'd imagined. My old phone was still buzzing with messages. I picked it up and scrolled through dozens of texts from my parents, Emma, extended family members, and even some old high school friends who'd apparently seen the article shared on social media. Everyone wanted to reconnect, to celebrate, to be part of my success. The irony was perfect. They told me I was on my own financially, and I'd taken them at their word. I'd become successful entirely without their help, and now they wanted back in. I crafted a single response and sent it to the family group chat. Thank you for the congratulations. I'm sure you can understand that I'm incredibly busy with interviews and business meetings related to my research. I'll be in touch when my schedule allows. It was polite, professional, and completely noncommittal. The responses were immediate and increasingly desperate. Mom, Sarah, please call me. I don't understand why you changed your name. We're so proud of you. Dad, we saw the article says you're starting a company. We'd love to discuss investment opportunities. Emma, Sarah, I'm so sorry we lost touch. I had no idea you were doing such amazing work. Can we please talk? Mom, I've been telling everyone about my brilliant daughter. Mrs. Peterson from next door saw the article and said she always knew you were special. I almost laughed at that last one. Mrs. Peterson had watched me mow their lawn for spending money during high school while Emma got an allowance for doing nothing. Over the next few weeks, the media attention intensified. I appeared on Good Morning America, NPR's Science Friday, and several medical podcasts. The New York Times ran a follow-up feature about young innovators in biotechnology. Forbes included me in their 30 under 30 list for healthcare. Each article mentioned my background briefly: Stanford PhD student, originally from the Midwest, first in her family to pursue advanced scientific education. I was careful to keep personal details minimal and focus on the research and its potential impact. Meanwhile, my family's attempts to contact me became increasingly frantic and manipulative. Mom started calling from different numbers when I stopped answering the main line. She left voicemails that started apologetic and grew increasingly angry. "Sarah, I don't understand why you're shutting us out. We're your family. We love you. Call me back." Then, "Sarah, it's not fair to punish us like this. We did our best raising you. We're proud of your success." And finally, "Sarah Marie, this is ridiculous. You can't cut off your family because of some perceived slight from years ago. We never meant to hurt you." Perceived slight. That phrase told me everything I needed to know about how they viewed this situation. Dad tried a different approach, sending emails about business opportunities and family investment partnerships. He'd apparently done some research on biotech startups and wanted to discuss how the family could participate in Sarah's success. Emma's messages were the most manipulative. She alternated between hurt feelings and fake sisterly bonding. "Sarah, I miss you so much. I never realized how much I depended on having you in my life. Please don't let this success change who you are." Then, "I saw your interview on Good Morning America and I cried. I'm so proud to be your sister. I've been telling everyone about your amazing work. And, Marcus and I are thinking about starting a family soon. I want my kids to know they're brilliant, Aunt Sarah. Please don't let whatever happened between us keep you from being part of our lives." I didn't respond to any of it. The breakthrough moment came when I received a LinkedIn message from someone I didn't recognize. "Hi Sarah, I'm a journalist working on a follow-up piece about your family's reaction to your success. I understand there may be an interesting backstory about your relationship with your parents. Would you be interested in sharing your perspective?" Someone had been digging. Probably my parents, trying to leverage my success for their own attention. That's when I decided it was time to take control of the narrative. I scheduled a follow-up interview with Science Times, the publication that had first featured my story. This time, I was ready to share the whole truth. "Dr. Chen," the interviewer began, "your rapid rise in the biomedical field is remarkable. Can you tell us about your journey and what motivated you to pursue this research?" I took a deep breath. I think it's important for young scientists to understand that success often comes from finding your own path, even when that path isn't supported by the people you'd expect to be in your corner. I told the story carefully and factually. I explained how I'd been told I was on my own financially for college while my parents purchased my sister a condo. I described working multiple jobs, taking loans, and funding my education entirely independently. I talked about the decision to change my name and move across the country to pursue research opportunities. The irony, I concluded, is that being forced to become independent actually made me stronger and more determined. When you can't rely on family support, you learn to build your own support network. My research mentors, lab colleagues, and academic community became my chosen family. The interviewer was clearly fascinated. "How do you feel about your birth family's recent attempts to reconnect following your success?" "I think it speaks to a common phenomenon in families," I said diplomatically. "Sometimes people only value achievements they can understand or that reflect well on them. My parents didn't see the value in supporting a struggling science student, but they're very interested in being associated with a successful researcher who's getting media attention." The article, titled "The Price of Independence: How Family Rejection Fueled a Medical Breakthrough," was published 3 weeks later. It was even more widely shared than the original piece about my research. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Social media exploded with support from other people who'd experienced family favoritism or had been forced to succeed independently. Scientists and academics shared their own stories of family members who didn't understand or support their work. The hashtag #ChosenFamily started trending. More importantly for me, the article attracted attention from investors and potential collaborators who respected my independence and determination. Within a month, I had secured funding for my startup company and assembled a team of brilliant researchers who wanted to help bring my stent technology to market. My birth family's reaction was predictable. Emma posted a long, emotional Facebook message about how family misunderstandings had been blown out of proportion by the media and how she was praying for healing and reconciliation. She included childhood photos of us together and talked about how much she missed her amazing big sister. Mom gave an interview to a local newspaper, claiming that she'd always been supportive of my education and that there had been miscommunications about financial assistance. She said they were heartbroken by my decision to cut contact and hoped I would come home soon. Dad remained silent publicly, but I heard through mutual connections that he was telling people I was ungrateful and had forgotten where I came from. The most telling response came when Emma announced her pregnancy on social media. The post included a direct appeal: "I can't wait for Aunt Sarah to meet her nephew or niece. I hope my sister will put aside whatever hurt feelings exist and be part of our family again. This baby needs to know how brilliant and accomplished their aunt is." It was emotional manipulation at its finest, and I didn't fall for it. Instead, I focused on building something extraordinary. My company, Martinez Biomedical Solutions, launched 8 months after the initial article. We secured partnerships with 2 major hospitals for clinical trials, obtained FDA fast-track approval for our smart stent technology, and raised $15 million in series of funding. The day we announced our first successful human trials, showing a 45% reduction in complications and 30% faster recovery times, I felt a satisfaction that had nothing to do with proving anything to my family and everything to do with knowing I was saving lives. That evening, I was interviewed on the evening news about the trial results. The reporter asked about my motivation for pursuing such challenging research. When you're forced to rely entirely on yourself, I said, looking directly into the camera, you discover capabilities you never knew you had. Every obstacle becomes an opportunity to prove that you're stronger than the circumstances that tried to limit you. I never mentioned my family directly, but anyone who'd followed my story understood the message. The success continued. Our stents received full FDA approval and began saving lives immediately. Major medical centers around the world started implementing our technology. I was invited to speak at international conferences and was offered positions at prestigious research institutions. 3 years after that first article, Forbes featured me on their cover as one of the most innovative entrepreneurs in healthcare. The headline read, "The Heart Revolutionary, How Dr. Sarah Martinez Built a Medical Empire from Scratch." The article detailed my journey from struggling college student to biomedical innovator, emphasizing the independence and determination that had driven my success. It mentioned my family background only briefly, noting that I had overcome early challenges to build her own support network in the scientific community. By this point, my birth family had largely stopped trying to contact me directly. Occasionally, Emma would post something on social media that seemed designed to get my attention, usually around holidays or family milestones. Mom would sometimes leave voicemails on my old number, her tone cycling between hurt and angry and back to hurt. But I was done with all of it. I had built exactly the life I wanted. I had a team of brilliant researchers working on the next generation of medical technologies. I had financial security beyond anything I'd imagined as a broke college student. I had respect and recognition in my field. Most importantly, I had chosen family, colleagues, mentors, and friends who valued me for who I was, not what I could do for them. The final piece of poetic justice came 4 years later. I was attending a biomedical engineering conference in Chicago when I ran into someone I hadn't seen since high school, David Rodriguez, who'd been in several of my AP classes. He recognized me from the recent media coverage and came over to chat. "Sarah, I can't believe I'm running into you here. I saw your Forbes cover story. That's incredible what you've built." We talked for a few minutes about our careers. He was working as a research engineer for a pharmaceutical company, and then he mentioned something that made me pause. "I actually saw your parents a few months ago at the grocery store back home. They were telling Mrs. Peterson all about their daughter, the famous scientist. Your mom showed her pictures from your magazine articles on her phone." I raised an eyebrow. "Really?" "Yeah," she was going on and on about how proud they are and how they always knew you'd do something amazing. She said they're planning to visit you in California soon to see your labs. I almost laughed. "That's interesting." David looked confused by my reaction. "Wait, are they not actually planning to visit?" "David," I said carefully, "I haven't spoken to my parents in over 5 years. They have no idea where I work or live." His face went through several expressions as he processed this information. Oh wow. She was acting like. She seemed so proud and involved." "I'm sure she was," I said. "People often take credit for successes they had nothing to do with." That conversation confirmed everything I'd suspected about how my family was handling my success publicly. They were basking in reflected glory, telling everyone who would listen about their brilliant daughter, conveniently omitting the part where they'd written me off and told me I was on my own. It was the perfect ending to the story, really. They'd wanted a daughter who would make them look good, and in the end, that's exactly what they got, except I wasn't actually their daughter anymore in any meaningful sense. I was Dr. Sarah Martinez, successful entrepreneur and medical innovator, who happened to share some DNA with people who'd never believed in her potential. The last message I received from any of them was a Facebook message from Emma last Christmas. "Sarah, I know you probably won't read this, but I wanted you to know that I tell my son about his Aunt Sarah all the time. I show him pictures of you from magazines and tell him how smart and successful you are. I hope someday you'll meet him. He'd be so lucky to know you. I love you and I'm sorry for whatever I did to lose you. Emma." I read it once and then deleted it. The truth is, I don't feel angry anymore. I don't feel hurt or rejected or like I'm missing out on family connections. What I feel is grateful. My parents did me the biggest favor of my life when they told me I was on my own financially. They forced me to become independent, to build my own support network, to rely on my own capabilities. Without that rejection, I might have stayed close to home, accepted mediocrity, and never pushed myself to achieve something extraordinary. Emma got a condo for her 21st birthday. I got the motivation to change the world. I think I got the better deal. Today, I'm 30 years old. I run a company that's valued at over $75 million. Our medical devices have been used in over 15,000 surgeries worldwide. I own a beautiful home in Palo Alto, drive my dream car, and travel internationally for conferences and speaking engagements. More importantly, I'm surrounded by people who chose to be in my life because they value who I am and what I contribute. My team at the company feels like family. My research collaborators from around the world are friends I genuinely enjoy spending time with. Dr. Martinez, who I now call by her first name Linda, is like the mother I never had, someone who believed in my potential even when I didn't believe in it myself. Sometimes I wonder if my birth family sees my success and regrets their choices. I wonder if they understand that their rejection wasn't just a missed opportunity to support me, but a missed opportunity to be part of something meaningful and groundbreaking. But mostly, I don't think about them at all. I'm too busy building the future. Update: a lot of people have been asking if I ever plan to reconcile with my family. The answer is no, and here's why. Reconciliation requires acknowledgement of wrongdoing and genuine change. What I've seen from my family is public posturing, emotional manipulation, and attempts to benefit from success they did nothing to support. Real family isn't about shared DNA. It's about showing up, believing in each other, and supporting each other through difficult times. My chosen family has done that consistently. My birth family proved they're only interested in the highlight reel. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, with exactly the people who belong in my life. Sometimes the best revenge isn't dramatic confrontation, it's building something so extraordinary that the people who rejected you become irrelevant to your happiness. They said I was on my own financially. They were right. And that independence became the foundation of everything I've achieved. I wouldn't change a thing.